What is technique? How much of it is good or bad? And what kind of technique is most helpful for your dance learning? Well, let's find out. Hello everybody, and welcome back to Zouk Nerds. In this episode, we're going to be talking about the different styles of technique and how each one of them can help you or cause challenges in your learning. We're also going to be diving in the difference between precision and technicality, as well as what is the difference between executing a movement and technique or learning a movement and technique. Tune in this episode to find out how to improve your dancing. So, let's go! Hello everybody, and welcome back to another episode. My name is Alisson Sandi, and let's welcome back our beautiful co-host, Gui Prada. Hello, Gui.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back.
In today's episode, we are going to approach something like a hot topic. Not just in our Zouk Nerds group, but in any dance community conversation worldwide. We're going to be talking about what is technique. What is it? How can we touch technique? How can we feel technique? How can we describe technique? How does technique help or not your dancing progression? And hopefully with our insight, this will help in your dance journey. So as we were preparing for this episode, we were discussing and looking at a few quotes that Guy actually got from the internet. So I think that would be nice to start with sharing those quotes that we talked before, because they really set the scene for what we are about to talk about.
Yeah, this actually, I want to give credit when credit is due. That comes from reading a recent post from Jerry Lai. And in this post, he talks about his journey. And he talks about the aspect of technique, of searching the technique. And he brings a quote from Isadora Duncan that says, "The purpose of technique is to make the invisible visible." That's one quote that really resonated with me. And there are a couple of other ones that I want to bring. One from Elliott Erwitt that says, "All the technique in the world doesn't compensate for the inability to notice." And the last one for now, from Bruce Lee, "Remember, you're expressing the technique, not doing the technique." This one was really powerful, eh?
Very much so. For me, this is how I kind of describe technique. Technique is maybe a set of information or instruction that allows you to feel something, allows you to do something in your body, but not in a way that you are executing it. Okay, so the way we're talking about here, there is doing something with your body, finding the organic and the natural way to get to that feeling, instead of looking at a shape or a form or a sequence of shapes and forms and executing them one after the other. The classic copy and paste versus understanding. And that's how we like to approach in class. We normally say that the best shortcut for you to actually understand something and get into your body as a muscle memory is to analyze the information, but really try to find the feeling of how that information is processed in your body. So when we're talking about weight transfer, instead of thinking about how much your knee bends and how much the weight is forwards or backward, how much the hip is settling onto the floor, it's more about the feeling of when you execute, when you do those small things, it creates a certain feeling of motion in your body that allows you to do the movement. So I don't know if I made myself clear here, but this is kind of how I see the technique. It's a set of instructions that allows you to get to a certain outcome.
Yeah, I see something similar. It's like the means that you use to achieve a certain result. We recently, Alisson, we went to a very fancy restaurant in São Paulo to celebrate. And in that restaurant, eating Michelin star restaurant food, you are basically being slapped on the face with technique. It's so incredible. There was a square of fried egg. It was the white of the egg white. It was fried on a triangle and it was perfectly seared all the way through. You know the little burn that tastes so nice when you fry an egg? Imagine that little burn throughout the whole thing. So it was the most perfect egg white triangle that I've ever eaten. And for someone to achieve that is only, I can only say that's technique, you know?
And not only to achieve that, but to achieve that consistently throughout hundreds of meals a week, that is technique.
That is technique. So it's the way that someone found to take the egg, break the egg, put in a triangle, fry it at the temperature, at the time that is required for it to achieve that consistency, that crust, like Alisson said, hundreds of times.
And the technique also allows you to adapt because let's say you have a supplier and then that supplier doesn't work anymore or they are having shortage and you have to go to another supplier and now you have to test that egg or that movement, that partnership, that connection, and you have to adapt to try and get the same feeling. Maybe if they change suppliers of eggs, it's not going to look exactly the same, but the feeling, the texture, the story will still fit in because they will be able to create that story with this different ingredient.
Exactly. So it is part of the technique, Alisson, your ability to adapt when the conditions are not ideal. You learn the ideal condition and then you learn how through adapting you can get close. I remember when I was a lawyer, there was a very interesting case. We had one of our clients with a famous chocolate factory in Brazil. And they had, I think they still have a special line of milk chocolates that was special because it was done with a very specific milk from a very specific cow. And then there was an issue that the supplier of that milk couldn't provide anymore. There was a problem there, and for a while they couldn't. So they were bumping their heads to try to find a milk that could get close, but they actually needed to suspend the line of that particular chocolate because they couldn't find a milk that was similar. So even with all the tools that they had in their hands, they couldn't make it happen until the supplier could provide again. I mean, just like a interesting case here for us.
Absolutely. And that's kind of like how a lot of the times when people are learning dance, they approach technique. I have the information. If I don't have the thing, the person, the music, the dance floor, the lights that matches the information that I have, we stop. It's not going to work. But then how useful is that technique then? How useful is it? If it stops a company, then maybe that's not an ideal way to build that business, right?
Yeah.
If you're so limited by one ingredient. So when we're looking at dancing, if we are limited to, for example, myself, dance partners at a certain height only, anybody below or above that, no, I cannot dance. I'm sorry. How could we be social dancers if we had that?
Yeah. And in social dancing, I think we need sometimes to expand what we understand as technique, not only to be something regarding to shapes, maybe, or correct execution, and include in the technique the soft skills of social dancing. Yeah, adaptation, that would be, for me, the biggest soft skill. And today, I classify adaptation as a technique. Adaptation is the name that I give to the little tweaks that your body does, the compensations that happen as you are social dancing in order to make everything work. And when I say make everything work, to make the movements feel easy, not in terms of complexity, but easy in terms of how much constraint there is on the body, how much tension you're using, how hard it is to execute, if I have to make too much force, and so on. So amplifying what technique means to also include really the things that we cannot see. And there is another quote here that is really interesting from Pablo Casals, saying the most perfect technique is that which is not noticed at all. And I found that really interesting because when I'm watching a couple, there's a supreme couple from another dancing. I'm gonna give an example, Facundo and Vanessa. They are a couple from tango, are amazing. You watch their demonstration, it just happens. But the trained eye knows that what they're doing is incredibly difficult. So difficult. But they were doing in a way that it just happened. So the technique that they are using is of high complexity in terms of how difficult it is to make that movement. And they are using that technique in a way to express the music so strongly that it almost like you cannot see the difficulty, but you see the expression. You see the expression in the sense you see the dynamics. It gets fast, it gets slow, and then they stop. And like doing that, the stop that they do is so freaking hard, but they do it in a way that you don't even realize because you're just, in this state of wonderment to what's going on there, So I think the inclusion of more things into the idea of technique, it would be interesting to explore. Even for us when we are teaching, when we talk about the technique, what is it that we are including when we talk about technique? What is it that you include, Alisson, when you talk about technique? What are the skills that you are referring to? Maybe on top of like where the foot goes, how the leg turns, the speed of things.
While you were talking, I think I did like 10 laps around the globe, just thinking about so many things. So I'm going to get to your question in a second, because I have something that I really have to talk about.
Please.
There is, I think, a big appreciation versus misunderstanding between a technical teacher and a precise teacher, because for me, a technical teacher is the one that shares and understands an almost infinite amount of things that are happening, constantly happening, and things that are moving. And a precise teacher is a teacher that wants you to do things a very specific, certain way. And a lot of the time, the precise teacher is labeled as a technical teacher.
Yes, exactly.
But I don't agree with that. But I don't agree with that because, for example, some dancers, they're very technical. Some dancers are very precise. You watch on the Instagrams and YouTubes, to me, a lot of dancers, they're very precise. And they can do a million things very precisely, very sharp, beautiful, bang, 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 bang. But I feel like if it doesn't work exactly how they plan to work, it just doesn't happen. You can see that there is a break there. There is something collapses. And to me, that's the lack of technique, the lack of information that allows you to be precise. But that precision is not the goal. Precision is the result of technique. So to me, being a very precise dancer or being a very technical dancer is very, very different. And a lot of the times, those two, they get tagged along together. Oh, I went to this teacher and their classes are super technical. And then I go and I watch their classes or do their classes and I'm like, no. To me, they're very precise and they demand you to do things a very specific way. That to me is lacking technique and just focusing on execution. Now, a teacher who is giving the information, but not necessarily precisely telling you exactly what they want you to do, that's a technical teacher because they are giving you the information and the tools for you to do it, how it works between you and your partner. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of like where I like to study my dance and I like to teach my dance in a technical way. And a lot of the times people do say, oh, you're so precise. And I don't consider myself precise. I consider myself quite messy when I watch my videos. But I understand from this perspective when they say, oh, you're precise when I'm teaching or when I'm dancing. And I think that's because what they see is that I'm able to do most things with most people, no matter what. However it works, it's going to work. So it's not precision for me. It's more like adaptability that makes something look precise because the technique was invisible in a way that you didn't see all the things that I did to look that way at the end. So I think it kind of goes along with what you're talking about, the invisible piece of information and learning and critical thinking and quickly adaptation that maybe makes something look so precise. But precision was never the intent or the goal when learning, when doing it, or when just going with the flow.
Yeah, I think by using the technique, and if you're just listening, I'm doing air quotes with my fingers. If by using the technique, you find that there is something that is limiting your ability to express yourself with somebody else, you might be actually looking for precision. And I think that, Alisson, what you just said is it might be a lot of, light bulbs coming on top of people's heads that are listening, because not in the sense of idea, but in the sense of enlightenment, in the sense of clarification, because there is indeed a relationship or a correlation that people make between precision and technique. And especially when we talk about this classic differentiation that people make between connected dancers and technical dancers. What does that actually mean? It might be that they're talking about, okay, there's a precise person here, and there is something else. Not so precise, a little bit more messy, but that's fine. Which is interesting because when I'm teaching private lessons, many times, and I think one of the episodes we talk about this, I talk to the person, everything that you were doing is beautiful, is correct, and I think it's too clean, it's excessively clean. And now that you said all these things, Alisson, I think they are wanting to be not only clean, but precise. And in searching that precision, we disconnect. We disconnect in the sense that the feeling of the touch of dancing with each other suffers because we are seeking for the precision. And that aspect of disconnecting can be very, very mild, very slight, but you feel that something could be maybe more fluid or lighter or easier to accomplish if we just let go of the precision a little bit. So I think now maybe we need to start making this differentiation a little bit more. Are you being technical or are you trying to be precise? Or are you using the technique to reach precision, or are you using the technique to reach whatever it is that you are trying to reach? Just today, a student that took a private lesson with me this weekend, he wanted me to expand on something regarding traveling. And he asked, you taught me about traveling so many years. I think I got it, but I still observe you dancing, I still observe your demos, and there is a smoothness that I cannot achieve. And then he asked, is it just rolling the feet, or is there something more? And then when I try to think about what is it that mechanically I'm doing to achieve that visual, I am rolling my feet, ball to heel, heel to ball. So we could say that that's the technique, how my foot is hitting the ground. But then I was like, he knows that already. He does that already. So what is it? What is the bridge? What is it that is missing? And then I started thinking, now, Alisson, that you said all these things, if I try to be precise about this, I'm only going to think about my feet. I'm going to maybe forget about my knees and my hips and all the other parts of my body. So then I told him, I'm searching for a feeling. I'm searching for the feeling of gliding. So whenever I would practice by myself, traveling around the floor in circles, for example, I would imagine that somebody is only seeing me from the waist up. And I was trying to imagine that when they are watching me just for the waist up, they just see my body moving horizontally. They don't see up and down. They don't see trepidation. So it's almost like I am floating on the screen. So that's the visualization. And then I realized by searching for this particular feeling, my body was doing all these little tweaks and adjustments, even in the rolling of the feet motion, to achieve the feeling. So I cannot precise exactly what is going on, but I can say that through the search for the feeling, I got to this result. Now, what is the technique behind it? Like, what would we say is the technique behind it? I'm rolling my feet, my knees are relaxed, I'm doing some torsions here and there, but you can do all these things and not achieve the same result. You know what I mean? So that's where it starts to get tricky to talk about these things, no?
Yeah, my teacher used to refer to this as the duck on the lake. You only see the duck gliding on the lake, but you don't see that the legs are like tick, 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 tick.
Yeah.
And technically, she used to call this term body flight. So I understand, and I like to describe like this. An airplane up in the air is never flying straight. It just isn't. It's a little bit sideways, a little bit down, a little bit up, a little bit sideways, diagonal. And the airplane is doing all of this dance of things to keep a straight heading, right? So the airplane doesn't fly on a straight line. It has a straight heading. So we're going to go from here to there. But along the way, you may do some slight deviations to get there. So I cannot give you the exact precise lines on the floor to dance or to step in order to do this thing or that thing. But I can give you the heading, and I can give you the feeling that we want to achieve throughout this heading. A smooth flight that goes as straight as possible to that position. So when we're talking about head movements, when we're talking about traveling, when we're talking about body movement, it's like, okay, we want to create a wide circle with the head movement. How low? Well, that will depend on the moment, on the dynamic, on the speed, on my partner's eye connection. Maybe I'm holding in the shoulder blade, maybe I'm holding a little bit lower. So then there's going to be more space. But the feeling is circular and continuous. So then that's like the heading and the motion or the dynamic. And that's when we're talking about like the technique behind it per se.
Yeah. So from that perspective, if we understand technique as the means to achieve whatever movement that we are trying to achieve, or the feeling associated to the movements, I think we then expand a lot what is that your body is doing, or what is it that your body can do to be, quote unquote, technically correct. So another thing that started coming up in privates, I'm noticing that in private lessons, people wanting to be precise about the placement of their feet. And then I noticed that they are trying to do the movements and losing balance and having such a hard time because they want to be precise about that, so they don't move their feet at all. Everything's going, and then I would tell them, you can adjust your feet from time to time. You can do a little shuffle, and that's fine. And they're like, boom, boom. All problems were solved, So this little shuffling of the feet, is this a technique? Could we call that a technique? I think so, because if you understand as the means to achieve the feeling of balance and stability, it is a technique, right? So maybe we need to start really broadening the technique, not only as something that is visually nice and beautiful, linear. The technique can be like a shuffling of your feet. The technique can be an adjustment mid-movement that you are doing, which is not necessarily beautiful in the sense that we understand what beautiful is, because I also think that beauty is associated very much with precision, with the precision of placement. And then maybe we also might need to make a differentiation between precision and clean. And I don't know if we can make the differentiation, just something philosophical, throwing it out there. But just to say that in partner dancing, and probably in all dancing as well, there is these adjustments that you make to make your body more comfortable, and the adjustments that you make to make the movement with your partner more comfortable. So it's very broad and very wide, né? Which reminds me as well that the things that I would say, there is connection in the technique and there is technique in connection. Né? Because to achieve what people see as the connection dancing, there is a lot of technique behind. It's just that the way that we organize the body to achieve that maybe not be as precise as you might understand right now what a technical dance is or a technical dancer is. It's really crazy, these concepts, man. They are all, if we're not careful, they become a block, you know?
Something else that I want to discuss here is, when can technique be a problem? Because this is a hot topic that we see a lot in conversations in our group and also outside of our Facebook Zouk Nerds group. When is technique a problem? When is it too much? Or when is it not enough? Well, I'm dancing with somebody who is too technical, or I'm dancing with somebody who doesn't have the technique. What do I do? I mean, like, this wording, I think, is very dangerous, because somebody who's too technical, maybe they're actually too precise. Maybe they're actually too mechanical, too focused on the execution and lacking the adaptability and the connection and the listening. So yeah, maybe, you know, if we put this blanket idea that everything is technique, they're very strong in some technique and not strong in others. But then there is the other person who somebody may consider them not technical enough. Maybe because they cannot do 5 spins with the head to the side and the leg over the shoulder. But every moment that you do traveling movements, or that you do body movement, that you do head movements with them, it just feels like butter, soft butter. So then that person has very strong adaptability, very strong listening skills, very strong technique in one side of the spectrum of technique, but they are not focused on the precision of having that specific turn and shape technique. I think that, you know, as a technical teacher that I like to strive to be, every technique is good, but it's only going to be good for you if they are matching the things that you want to do. You know, like, you can consider every food group good, but if you want to gain more muscle, you're going to focus on one food group. If you want to lose weight, you're going to focus on a different type of group of food, you know, more energy or whatever that is, better skin. So they're all good. But what is it that you're looking in your dance that you want more of, and how can you get there with maybe less precision? Maybe that's what you're missing, less precision.
Yep.
Or maybe you need more precision to execute the things that you want, because maybe you've mostly connected your dance to flow and organic and go with the feeling, and that's okay. But then now you're trying to do more precise things. Then you need to relearn a whole set of things that will allow you to do that. Different technique, not right or wrong, not better or worse, not more or less, just different in my opinion.
Bruh, this is amazing, because I just noticed something else here. When we are teaching something new, we teach more or less think about precision. So for example, when we're teaching direction changes, we teach in degrees. We teach the 90-degree one, we teach the 180-degree one. And I think we are teaching precision mostly to teach your body to do something that it didn't know how to do before. So we give a starting point and an ending point in a way that you can verify, I got here. Nice. Yeah, so we give like a very structured beginning, middle, end, just so you can learn the execution in a precise way, with the hopes that one day, through learning the execution or incorporating, embodying the execution, you can do any direction with the same level of intentionality, or intentional about the direction. So what we might be talking about here, Alisson, is that sometimes the person learns a 90-degree direction change, and every time they change direction, they change 90 degrees. If there is no room on the floor, doesn't matter. I change 90 degrees. If I'm about to hit a person, I hit a person because they were there in my 90 degree, you know? So I think that will be the bridge that sometimes we are not taking, or the bridge that sometimes we're not crossing. You learn the precise way. Now you use the precise way to explore all ranges. And that might be something that us as teachers are missing on, being more by expressing these ideas a little bit more intentionally or saying more times, because now that I realized that in all the things that I learned in food, in dance, we learn with certain precision. We need to achieve these results here with the hopes that one day we can achieve any results using that same tool. And it comes to that very classic phrase, learn the rules so then you can break them.
I think in that case, I wouldn't really necessarily say that we're being precise, but we're giving guidelines. So for example, we talk about, okay, so we're going to start here and we're going to turn 90 degrees. So when you turn, you want to face that wall. Okay, so yes, I absolutely think that we have to continuously assess how we say things and how that affects our students and how they're learning. But I'm never going to correct a student who does a little bit than 90 degrees or more than 90 degrees. As long as the flow, the connection, the timing, the frame, and everything is working, I'm not going to fix them and say, you didn't turn 90 degrees, And if a student asks me and say, hey, I cannot get to 90 degrees, what's wrong with me? And I'm like, look, you're doing what your body can right now. Keep aiming to 90 degrees, keep adding more torsion, but what you're doing is not wrong. I'm just asking us to do 90 degrees as a challenge, as a set challenge, not because this is the only way, especially when we're talking about viradinha. It's a movement that is, for the lack of better words, free angle. It could be any angle, and it's good, as long as it has the minimum requirements to feel and to look like a viradinha. That's a viradinha. Yeah. Okay, so I think, yes, as teachers, we have to continuously improve and assess and understand that what we're trying to do here is to give guidelines, not precision, not the execution, but the feeling. And through the feeling, the execution will come. So we're kind of trying all to get to the same spot. Okay, but the path may be different. And it's something that when I was doing a lot of choreography and when I was doing a lot of competition, a long time ago, I was very focused on precision and execution. Because what am I trying to achieve? I'm trying to achieve the best execution on any dance floor, on any day, on any weather, any situation, in front of judges that are going to score me for that, which is completely different from social dancing. In social dancing, like, we can compare, for example, a Formula One driver versus a rally driver. A Formula One driver, 50 laps on the same course. It's different from when you're driving across the desert. It's quite different. And another example that I want to talk about is about soccer, or as we call it in Brazil, football. And a huge disclaimer here, I know minus 100,000 about soccer. Okay? Nothing, zero. I don't know how to kick a ball straight. I was born in the wrong country. We've established that a long time ago. Now, I have a lot of friends who are very fanatic, and they say how the different way that Brazilians learn soccer and the Europeans learn soccer are now passing and making better players in Europe than in Brazil, right? And from what the information that I got from them, it's basically because of how much they drill and train techniques with guidelines. And you see that now in Brazil more. But back in the days where Brazil was always on the top of the things, they mostly learned on the streets. Just go, boom, play, and then you become amazing, and then you win the World Cup. But that's not enough anymore. Just playing on birth without proper training, proper guidelines, without actually being conscious about the technique is not enough anymore. And that's why a lot of the times people have that ceiling. They've been dancing for a long time and things have been working and working and working. And then they hit a plateau, the intermediate plateau or the advanced plateau, where they're like, I feel like, I do all the classes, I go to congresses, I do private lessons, and I just don't feel like I'm improving anymore. But then what are they looking for? They're looking to do the new moves, the new trends, but they're lacking the information that is going to allow them to do that. But they don't want to do that until maybe, they hit that ceiling for so long that they're prepared and willing to do anything. And they're like, look, I don't know what to do anymore. If you tell me to walk, I'm going to walk because I don't know. I've lost confidence. I've lost hope. And I'm just here because I love this dance so much. But yeah, I think that every time we learn something new, we need to go back, be a beginner, be a student, and go from a place of like, I know nothing. Give me this information from zero. We had this experience a couple of weeks ago in Taipei when we did the Lambada training with Ariel and Leticia, where both of us were just there like, we know nothing. Students would dance with me and ask me, is this right? And I'm like, I don't know. Am I doing this right? Like, I'm trying to figure out in my body, how can I make this feel like what I see and what the teacher feels like when I dance with them? That's what I'm trying to figure out how to do. I'm not trying to do the move. I'm trying to recreate the feeling, recreate the dynamic, the energy, the connection. And it was very interesting because I think a lot of people can relate to this. Sometimes when you do a movement and it works and you're like, how did I do that? What did I do different? I think that's kind of like when we're looking for something else. But if we're already looking for the feeling, then the heading, the heading is the feeling. That's for me, it's the shortcut. Because when we're looking at the movement and not focused on the feeling that movement creates, then I'm just kind of not really looking directly at how to get there, right? But if I'm looking at the feeling, I'm searching for that feeling, I find that the look sometimes just happens, or the execution sometimes just happens. And you cannot be distracted. You can go, oh my God, yeah, I did this and I did that and I did this. No, don't overanalyze. Go back again and try to recreate the feeling. If you can recreate the feeling, then you will be able to do that movement with almost anybody. But if you try to recreate the execution, it's going to work with this partner, not with everybody else.
Yeah, man. As you're saying this thing, it just solidifies in my mind this idea that technique is something that you use so you can express yourself better. So you can put out there your inspiration. That is becoming more and more certain in my mind, not certain, but like solidified in my mind as we talk. And as you were talking about that aspect of, we were trying the things in the workshop and some stuff would work. And we were like, how did that happen? Because I don't know the technique yet, But your body can go through the mechanics of it and you were searching for the feeling. So then something comes out. It might not be exactly the thing that you were seeing the teacher do, but it's something that works and feels good, So I think that is something to keep in mind, where the metaphysical aspect of everything, the search for a feeling, informs what you do with your body. So it's almost like the technique is something that you learn so you can better express a feeling that you already had or a feeling that you have. So many of us, for example, I think, can think about a beautiful picture, a beautiful image. But how many of us can actually draw the image that we are thinking about? Because we don't have the technique to put it on the paper. So if we were to one day, let's say, sit there, imagine mountains, try to draw those mountains. It's not gonna be with too much detail. You're probably gonna just do some 2/3 of a triangle on the paper, So for us to actually really draw a mountain with details, with shadows, with depth, we will need to go through some sort of training, learn the technical aspects regarding drawing. We're going to probably need to start from the basics of drawing an apple, drawing the human body. And then we're going to go through a process of learning how to draw in perspective, how to add color and shades and all these things. And then one day we're going to be able to express that mountain. So I think in dance is very similar. And Alisson, you mentioned when somebody says that someone doesn't have technique. I think that when somebody's saying that someone else doesn't have technique is because somebody's trying to draw that mountain without never learn how to draw, actually. So somebody's coming to the social trying to do boneca, but they have only seen a boneca. They can picture in their heads, but they cannot execute it because they never learned the mechanics of it. So maybe when somebody's saying that, it's just referring to someone who is trying to express themselves in a way that they see, but they still don't know how to do it, but they do it anyways, So then they are missing the aspect of adaptation, of connection, of awareness and stuff like that. Because I think this is something that I heard so many times people say, this person doesn't have technique. And I think they are referring to that. Or when somebody says, like you said before, this person is extremely technical. To this day, I don't know what they mean exactly by that, But in my head, when somebody says, this person is extremely technical, I'm going to ask, what do you mean by that? Because with all this conversation we are having here, I am thinking that maybe this person is leading or being led into things and are noticing that that lead or that follower is achieving a very specific result and then might be working perfectly or might be having a little bit of miscommunication that you can identify. Oh, I missed this thing here. I missed this other thing there. And then you can be classifying that precision again on the execution as technical. So maybe you're saying, oh, this person is very technical because they are very precise, and you are either being able to follow that precision and feel amazing about it, or almost follow that precision and be mesmerized by it because of how clean it is, or not matching with it at all because it's not listening to you. And I have seen all three cases, but probably there is so many more in this spectrum, né?
Absolutely. There's so many more that we could go for probably a whole season just talking about this thing.
Oh, yeah.
But today we're out of time. So hopefully this was a good roundup of what we think about what is technique and how to use it in your dance in a more effective way. Because like I said before, it's all in the spectrum. Depending on what you're looking for, you're going to look for certain techniques. Some have more of this, some will have more of that. And the beauty of partner dancing is that the more we learn, the more we can dance with different people from anywhere in the world. So with that in mind, thank you once again for being here with us. Please stay connected with us on Spotify, on YouTube, on Instagram, on TikTok, anywhere you may want to see short versions of our episodes before or after you get to see the whole thing. And we'll see you on the next episode, everybody. Thank you. Beijos, abraços, and ciao.
Bye, everyone. Till next time.